Good morning, everyone. Today, date is 23 November. Day is Wednesday. Today, we are going to read from the Tamilnadu textbook, subject history, higher secondary, first year. Chapter-4, Jainism and Buddhism. So, let's start. The 6th century BC is considered a wonderful century in history. Great thinkers like Buddha, Mahavira, Heraclitus, Zoroaster, Confucius, and Lao Tse lived and preached their ideas in this century. In India, the republican institutions were strong in the 6th century BC. This enabled rise of heterodox sects against the orthodox religion, dominated by rites and rituals. Among them, the most successful were Jainism and Buddhism, whose impact on the Indian society was remarkable. Cause for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism. The primary cause for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism was the religious unrest in India in the 6th century BC. The complex ritual and sacrifices advocated in the later Vedic period were not acceptable to the common people. The sacrificial ceremonies were also found to be too expensive. The superstitious belief and mantras confused the people. The teachings of Upanishads, an alternative to the system of sacrifices, were highly philosophical in nature and therefore not easily understood by all. Therefore, what was needed in larger interest of the people was each simple, short, and intelligible way to salvation for all people. Such religious teaching should also be in a language known to them. This need was fulfilled by the teaching of Buddha and Mahavira. Other than the religious factor, social and economic factors also contributed to the rise of these two religions. The rigid caste system prevalent in India generated tensions in the society. Higher classes enjoyed certain privileges which were denied to the lower classes. Also, the Kshatriyas had resented the domination of the priestly class. It should also to be noted the both Buddha and the Mahavira belongs to Kshatriya origin. The growth of trade led to the improvement in the economic conditions of Vaisyas. As a result, they wanted to enhance their social status, but the orthodox Varna system did not allow this. Therefore, they began to extend support to Buddhism and Jainism. It was this merchant class that extended the chief support to these new religions. Jainism, Life of Vardhamana Mahavira 539 to 467 BC. Vardhaman Mahavira was the 24th Tirthankara of the Jain tradition. He was born at Kundalgrama near Vaisali to Kshatriya parents Siddhartha and Trisla. He married Yashoda and gave birth to a daughter. At the age of 30, he became an ascetic and wandered for a 12-year. In the 13th year of the penance, he attained the highest spiritual knowledge called Kaivalya Ganan. Therefore, he was called Mahavira and Jina. His followers were called Jain and his religion Jainism. He preached his doctrine for 30 years and died at the age of 72 at the Pava near Rajgrih. Teaching of Mahavira. The three principles of Jainism, also known as Triratna, three gems, are right faith, right knowledge, right conduct, Samyak Darshak, Samyak Gyan, Samyak Charit. Right faith is the belief in the teachings and wisdom of the Mahavira. Right knowledge is the acceptance of the theory that there is no God and that the world has become existent without a creator, and that all objects possesses a soul. Right conduct refers to the observation of the five great vows: not to injure life, not to lie, not to steal, not to acquire property, not to lead immortal life. Both the clergy and laymen had to strictly follow the doctrine of ahimsa. Mahavir regarded all objects, both animated and inanimated, have souls and various degree of consequences. They possess life and feel pain when they are injured. Mahavir rejected the authority of the Vedas and the objected to the Vedic ritual. He advocated a very holy and ethnic code of life. Even the practice of agriculture was considered sinful as it causes injury to the earth, worms and animals. Similarly, the doctrine of asceticism and reconciliation was also carried to extreme length by the practice of starvation, nudity, and other forms of self-torture. Spread of Jainism. Mahavira organized to Sangha to spread his teaching. He admitted both men and women in the Sangha, which consisted of both monk and lay follower. The rapid spread of Jainism was due to the dedicated work of the member of Sangha. It spread rapidly in western India and Karnataka. Chandragupta Maurya, Kharvel of Kalinga, and the royal dynasty of the South India, such as the Gangas, the Kadambas, and the Chalukyas and the Rashtrakutas, patronized Jainism. By the end of 4th century BC, there was a serious famine in the Gangas valley. Many Jain monks lays to Bhadrabahu and Chandragupta Maurya came to Shravanbelgola in Karnataka. Those who stayed back in North India were led by a monk named Sthulbahu, who changed the code of conduct for the monks. This led to the division of Jainism into two sects: Svetambara, white clothes, and Digambara, sky-clad or naked. The first Jain council was convened at Patalputra by Sthulbahu, the leader of the Digambara. In the beginning of the 3rd century BC, the second Jain council was held in Vallabhi in 5th century AD. The final compilation of Jain literature called 12 Angas was completed in the council. Buddhism. Life of Gautam Buddha 567 to 487 BC. Gautama or Siddhartha, the founder of Buddhism, was born in 567 BC in Lumbini garden near Kapilvastu. His father was Suddhodana of the Sakya clan and mother Maya Devi. As his mother died at childbirth, he was brought up by his aunt Prajapati Gautami. At the age of 16, he married Yasodhara and gave birth to a son, Rahul. The sight of an old man, a diseased man, a corpus, and an ascetic turned him away from worldly life. He left home at the age of 29 in search of truth. He wandered for 7 years and met several teachers but could not gain enlightenment. At last, he sat under a Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya and did intense penance, after which he got enlightenment, nirvana, at the age of 35. Since then he became known as the Buddha or the Enlightened One. He delivered his first sermon at Sarnath near Banaras, and for the next 45 years he led the life of a preacher. He died at the age of 80 at Kushinagar. The most important disciple of Buddha was Sariput, Moglayan, Ananda, Kashyap and Upali. King like Prasenjit of Kosala and Bimbisar and Ajatasattu of Magadha accepted his doctrines and became his disciple. Buddha in his lifetime spread his message far and wide in the North India and visited places like Banaras, Rajgiri, Sravasti, Vaisali, Nalanda and Pataligram. It should be noted that he did not involve himself in fruitless controversies regarding metaphysical questions like God, soul, karma, rebirth, etc., and concerned himself with the practical problems confronting man. Teachings of Buddha. The four noble truths of Buddha are: the world is full of suffering. The cause of suffering is desire. If desire are get rid of, suffering can be removed. This can be done by following the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path consists of right view, right resolve, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right consultations. Buddha neither accept God nor reject the existence of God. He laid great emphasis on the law of karma. He argued that the condition of man in his life depends upon his own deeds. He taught that the soul does not exist. However, he emphasized ahimsa by his love for human being and all living creature. He endeared himself to all, even under the gravest provocation. He did not show the least anger and hatred, and instead conquered everyone by his love and compassion. His religion was identical with morality and emphasized purity of thoughts, words, and ideas. He was rationalist who tried to explain things in the light of reason and not on the basis of blind faith. Through he did not make a direct attack on caste system. He was against any social discriminations and through open his order to all. Therefore, Buddhism was more a social than religious revolution. It taught a code of practical ethics and laid down the principle of social equality. Spread of Buddhism. Buddha had two kinds of disciples, monk, bhikshus, and lay worshippers, upasikas. The monks were organized into sangha for the purpose of spreading his teaching. The membership was open to all persons, male or female, and without any caste restrictions. There was a special code for nuns restricting their residence and movement. Sariputta, Moglayan, and Ananda were some of the famous monks. The Sangha was governed on domicile line and was empowered to enforce discipline among its members. Owing to the organized efforts made by Sangha, Buddhism made rapid progress in North India even during Buddha's lifetime. Magad, Kausal, Kausambi, and several republican states of North India embraced this religion. About 200 years after the death of Buddha, the famous Mauryan Empire Ashoka embraced Buddhism. Through his missionaries' effort, Ashoka spread Buddhism into West Asia and Ceylon. Thus, a local religious sect was transformed into a world religion. Buddhist Council. The first Buddhist council was held in Rajgriha under the chairmanship of Mahakasyap immediately after the death of Buddha. Its purpose was to maintain the purity of teaching of the Buddha. The second Buddhist council was convened at Vaisali around 383 BC. The third Buddhist council was held in Patalputri under the patronage of Ashoka. Mogliput Tis presided over it. The final version of Tripitaka was compiled in this council. The fourth Buddhist council was convened in Kashmir by Kanishka under the chairmanship of Vasumitra. Ashoghosa participated in this council. The new school of Buddhism called Mahayana Buddhist came into existence during this council. The Buddhism preached by the Buddha and propagated by Ashoka was known as Hinayan. The Buddhist text was collected and compiled some 500 years after the death of Buddha. They are known as Tripitaka, namely the Sutta, the Vinaya, the Abhidhamma Pitaka. They are written in the Pali language. Causes for the decline of Buddhism in India: the revival of Brahmanism and the rise of Bhagavatism led to the fall of popularity of Buddhism. The use of Pali, the language of the masses, as the language of Buddhism was given up from the 1st century AD. The Buddhists began to adopt Sanskrit, the language of elite, after the birth of Mahayana Buddhism, and practice of idol worship and making offering led to the deterioration of moral standards. Moreover, the attack of Huns in 5th and 6th century and Turkish invasions in 12th century destroyed the monasteries. All these factors contributed to the decline of Buddhism in India. Contribution of Buddhism in Indian culture. Buddhism had made a remarkable contribution to the development of Indian culture. The concept of ahimsa was its chief contribution. Later it became one of the cherished values of our nation. Its contribution to the art and architecture of India was notable. The stupas and Sachi, Bharut and Gaya are wonderful pieces of architecture. Buddhism takes the credit for the chaityas and viharas in different parts of India. It promoted education through residential universities like those at Takshila, Nalanda and Vikramshila. The language of Pali and other local language developed through the teaching of Buddhism. It had also promoted the spread of Indian culture to other parts of Asia.